Here we go!
Sonic 3 is finally out and I went to go see it the same day I'm writing this script. I don't usually go to the theater to go watch a movie, but this was different. The big third movie of the trilogy, and it has Shadow in it. Like, how could I not make this a special occasion? And I gotta say, what an experience. This is mostly gonna be a spoiler review, so I'll keep this beginning section spoiler free. If I were to describe this movie in the fewest words possible, I would call it a funner movie. Why funner? Well, with the first movie, I thought the film was okay, some very small Sonic stuff sprinkled here and there, but at its core, it was basically a buddy cop mixed with the trope of an alien creature that lives on Earth with humans type film. It was definitely a cute movie, but left a lot to be desired. Sonic Movie 2 was a big step up, introducing more game elements like the Master Emerald, Tails, the Death Egg robot, and of course, Knuckles. We were slowly seeing the Sonic movies shift to include things that the fans had been really yearning for. But its high highs also had low lows to match, with things like the prominence of humans. It was a fun movie, but something was preventing it from feeling truly like a Sonic movie to me. Then comes Sonic Movie 3, the funner movie. It's funner because it does what Sonic Movie 2 does, but amplifies the Sonic stuff a lot more. Of course the movie isn't perfect, but it was a much more fun ride than what I had with Movie 2 in my opinion. The animation has improved, the voice cast is as good as ever, and overall, if you enjoyed the previous movies or are a sucker for Sonic stuff, then you'll definitely have a fun time watching this as well. Now, onto the spoilers. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it now, and then come back later, okay? Spoilers in 3, 2, 1. To start off, let's dive into the story. Sonic Movie 3 very loosely adapts Sonic Adventure 2, tackling Shadow's origin and his redemption at the end. At the beginning of the movie, Shadow is awakened by what we think is Eggman and escapes Gun's facilities and Prison Island. And holy moly do I love this breakout scene. Right from the Paramount and Sega logo, they really wanted you to know that they mean business this time. The lighting, or in case lack thereof, is amazing. They perfectly depict that creepiness and air of mystery that I always thought Prison Island had. Shadow then arrives in Tokyo with the realization that it's 2024, and just like the games, was in stasis for over 50 years. Wait, 2024? Shadow, it's your year, buddy! It's the year of Shadow! Ah, what a perfect time to wake up. Anyways, we cut to Sonic, where he races a bunch of holograms so that his family can throw him a birthday party. A happy day for all until Gun comes and requests that Team Sonic be the ones to take care of this havoc-wreaking faker. We then get a stellar-looking one-sided battle and chase scene that has our trio getting their asses handed to them. After defeat, they head to a Chow Garden cafe place? Pretty neat reference. Kinda wish the music they played wasn't a Japanese version of ABC by the Jackson 5 though. I mean, the setting is Japan, right? Why not reference some Sega stuff while you're at it? I mean, Sega has dabbled in some Hatsune Miku stuff, so why not play some of her music performances instead? Anyways, once they recoup, Gun Commander Walters gives them a mysterious key, all the while getting ambushed by Eggman's drones. And here's where the missed potential comes in. We get to a point where the gun agent Rockwell comes in and could have blamed Sonic and friends for stealing the commander's key and possibly killing him. But no, that would have been a way too perfect way to make Sonic a wanted criminal in the eyes of Gun. This could have been the placeholder for Shadow framing Sonic like in the games. So many ways to pay homage to the source material, but anyways, Bike Rider Stone leads Sonic and Co to where Eggman was hiding all this time, a giant crab. And also it kinda looks like the one from Forces. That's pretty cool. We find Eggman rotting away in his man cave eating junk food and watching cheesy dramas. And man, they could have done something way more clever than what they used. Imagine Eggman watching a drama spoof based on Princess Elise or, I don't know, Sarah from Sonic OVA? You could put these characters in a drama-like situation that would have been funny for general audiences, but also a pretty deep cut in terms of Sonic. Whatever. Eggman agrees to help Sonic and they embark on an adventure to find who's been hijacking Eggman's drones. And here's where things get interesting. The movie gives us two interpretations of Shadow's past from two different individuals, Commander Walters and Shadow himself. From the perspective of Commander Walters, Shadow was just a tool used to generate chaos energy for Gun. The commander knew Shadow lost Maria but didn't fully understand their relationship with one another. This here is the extent of what Sonic understands of Shadow's past. However, Shadow gives us a glimpse from his point of view. Maria was the only individual who didn't treat him like an experiment, a tool. While the only people that came in and out of the facility wore lab coats and military uniforms, here we have Maria waltzing in wearing bright colors and roller skates, already signaling to Shadow that she was different. Shadow continues to feel this sense of warmth and comfort as Maria and him both hang out and do fun things together. we get to a scene of Shadow and Maria laying in a grass field looking at the stars. What you may have already noticed is that, unlike in SA2, in this movie, Shadow and Maria were always on Earth, rather than on the Ark all their lives. This changes the narrative quite significantly. In SA2, both Maria and Shadow had never gone to Earth, making them more curious to see what it was like. Maria wanted to experience the good of the planet that she had always pictured in her head, while Shadow's goal was to understand his purpose for being created. And that's another unique thing. Shadow wasn't created by Gerald, but rather was found in the rubble of a meteor crash. That's why instead, the conversation between Maria and Shadow in movie 3 is more about understanding that Earth is his home and that it's where he belongs. A little later in the movie, we see Maria and Gerald escaping from the facility in order to keep Shadow out of Gunn's hands. This event is what provokes a Gunn soldier to nearly take fire at Maria. I thought they were going to portray her death in the same vein as the games, but an explosion set off by the soldier was a good enough workaround here. A part of me feels SA2 as the stronger version here. It was Maria's dream to go to Earth, and that being taken away in an instant was such a powerful message. In Sonic Movie 3, that message is different. Here, Maria represents the good on Earth, that last glimmer of hope Shadow had for humans and humanity, all for that one person to be removed from his life. From Shadow's perspective, there was literally no one else capable of replicating Maria's kindness, not even Gerald. His whole world resided in that lab, meaning as far as he knew, he was once again alone, and a powerful monster in the eyes of others. I'm honestly not sure which version of Shadow's backstory I prefer. This is one of those scenarios where the movie version offers an alternate take that still preserves a powerful theme embedded in its story. Both are good, but I think I still prefer the way SA2 handles everything just a bit better. But back to the plot. One by one, Shadow ambushes the main trio along with Stone. Eggman, however, runs into his long-lost grandfather, Gerald Robotnik. And I'm not gonna lie, when Gerald was first revealed in the trailer, that was where I was kinda concerned for this movie's quality. But I'll get into that later. He reveals that the keycard that Sonic has is one of the final pieces to activating the Grand Eclipse Cannon within the Ark. Eggman then betrays Sonic and friends, with Gerald leaving them to be absorbed by a mini black hole. Fortunately, with a well-timed ring toss, they make it back safely to Green Hills and get Tom and Maddie to go on a mission to retrieve the last keycard at Gun headquarters. On a slightly more positive note, I'm glad that the only humans shown so far are in service of the plot rather than being an intrusive element. I'm sure we won't see them again. Anyways, we can't just cut back to Sonic & Co. No, silly. We need to go see a goofy montage of Eggman and Gerald engaging in some family bonding. Sure, this is just a humorous little scene for a few laughs and to build up Eggman's betrayal of Stone, but holy hell is it just totally unfitting from how serious prior scenes have been for the most part. But now, the plan has finally begun. Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are on standby to infiltrate the base, the Eggman and Shadow are initiating their plans as well, and Tom and Maddie are disguised as Randall and Rachel to hack into their security systems. I get that this is a good way to make Tom and Maddie more involved in the plot, but could there have been no other way? Like, the way they get past entrance security is with Rachel saying, "getting ultra nasty." Not only is this one of the most cringy lines I've ever heard, but it literally makes no sense that this works. You're telling me that it's that easy to get past gun security? If so, then why can't Sonic and friends use the same cloaking device too? I don't know, this was just a particularly low point in the movie for me. But that doesn't end there. That low point continues with Eggman and Gerald's dance number. For the life of me, I could not stand this sequence. Sure, it had cool visuals, but like I said about the bonding montage, it just makes me wonder how much of this time could have been dedicated to other plot or character development. Anyways, both Sonic and Co along with the Eggmen reach the room of the keycard, but are stopped in their tracks by Gun. Things go a bit haywire with the tiles that make you float or sink and Tom and Maddie almost getting crushed by falling concrete. You know, when I saw that shot from the trailers, I was somehow convinced that Tom was gonna die then and there. While this doesn't happen, he does get severely injured when Shadow sees him disguised as Commander Walters and punches him unconscious. And can I say how bullshit this kind of is? How did Tom manage to survive the impact and chaos energy from Shadow's fists? There's no way that Shadow would hold back in this scenario, especially towards one of the gun commanders. I know that this is a nitpick, but from the strength that Shadow has been shown to possess, there's no way a regular human could withstand his power. This brings Sonic full circle, putting him on a course for revenge against Shadow. I do like the fact that unlike in SA2, Sonic and Shadow have a good reason initially to be enemies in this movie. Sonic Adventure 2 opted to making Sonic and Shadow's interactions few and far in between, with most action being relegated to large showdowns with little personal stakes. However, in movie 3, they really play with the idea that Sonic and Shadow are mirrors of one another in terms of their need for revenge and in design. Both have their reasons for their anger, and both are at fault for letting that anger consume them. This consequently leaves Sonic in a bad headspace, causing him to fall into desperation and asking Knuckles to give him the Master Emerald. Although Knuckles evaluates that Sonic is in no condition to control the Master Emerald's power, as his loyal friend, he trusts Sonic to be sensible. Sonic goes super and takes Shadow head on, which leads into one of the best scenes of this film. Seeing Sonic totally lose control against Shadow was a pretty interesting decision. While this is happening, Eggman finally learns of Gerald's true intentions of eliminating Earth in its entirety rather than trying to conquer it. And I'm sorry, I could not take this total 180 seriously. Call the whole bonding moment a possible facade, but having Gerald now act all serious was just the nail in the coffin that really made me dislike this interpretation of his character. But back to Sonic and Shadow. Their fight takes them to the moon, where Sonic is about to deal the finishing blow on Shadow, but then realizes that he let revenge cloud his judgment and who he was. Having Sonic spare him in this manner, Shadow discovers the error of his ways as well. They both reconcile over their shared experiences and decide to work together to stop the Eclipse Cannon. And yes, I won't lie, I squealed like a child when the Live and Learn kicked in and they both transformed at the same time. I kinda wish they held off the super forms until this moment to make this more impactful, but I'm not too bothered. And here is where they start playing with my heart! For the time Super Sonic and Super Shadow were fighting off those robots, that was peak. Live and Learn playing in the background and the iconic SA2 moon pose, absolutely gorgeous. But the amount of time spent witnessing peak cinema is interrupted by Eggman spanking time and slapping with scorpion hands. Like, did they want us to feel hype? Every time they cut back to the Eggman, I could feel the smile fade fast from my face. Could they not just let the Live and Learn scene play out without interruptions? Did they need to cut back to the unfunny action just to please the toddlers in the audience? What a way to ruin a climactic finale. That doesn't end there. The final scene of Sonic and Shadow pushing the arc back is ended prematurely, with Eggman hogging the spotlight and professing his love, I mean friendship to Stone. Like, was this about Eggman's sacrifice or Shadow's? We don't even get the iconic line of, "Maria, this is what you wanted, right? This is my promise I made to you." Oh wait, we can't have those lines because Maria never had a wish in this version, which makes Shadow's send-off even more complete, rushed, and robbed. Okay, I don't want to be too negative here. We do get a cool moment of Tails and Knuckles saving Sonic and embracing one another in a cornfield. Those scenes are nice. If I have to give anything to movie 3, it's that they made Sonic and Co's friendship more believable and heartwarming. But the whole thing entirely ignores Shadow's sacrifice. Sonic isn't even concerned for Shadow in the final scenes. They just go back to the way things were at the beginning of the movie. At the end of SA2, we got a somber moment of the cast conversing with one another, talking like real people about the events that had transpired. We don't get any of that in movie 3. I really wanted to end this discussion on the plot on a higher note, but I just can't excuse these choices. But I guess that's not everything. Sonic Movie 3's post-credit scene leaves us with the introduction of Metal Sonic and Amy Rose. Additions I wish were included before Shadow, but I guess better late than never. I'm surprised how faithful Metal looks to his in-game counterpart too, mono eye and all. Amy's design also looks really good, but a part of me is a bit concerned how they're gonna handle her in a post-SA2 inspired story, especially since she was integral to that plot. Although, I do have something positive to comment on Sonic's personality in these final scenes. The few lines he has here feel so close to my ideal Sonic. That overconfident, snarky, but not too cringe dialogue comes across pretty well here. I kinda wish this was the Sonic that we had from the start. But anyways, Shadow's back, yay! Could they not have dragged out his death at least a little bit longer? Let his sacrifice actually mean something, you know? Well, I guess all we can do now is see how they handle his character in the future installments. Speaking of characters, let's talk further about them. Let's talk about the established characters first. If you weren't a big fan of how the characters were portrayed in the first two films, then you're gonna get a bit more enjoyment out of them this time. But not by much. Sonic for the most part is the same as ever. He's still quite childish, he makes cringy pop culture references, and he's greatly driven by his various emotions. For me personally, he was ironically the Sonic character I was least looking forward to seeing in this movie. The trailers gave me no confidence that this movie's portrayal would draw inspiration from the game it's based on. However, as I said before, we see glimpses of it in the post-credit scene and that locked-in mode he was in for the third act of the film. Personally, I don't get the enjoyment of his locked-in mentality. As I've said on Twitter, Sonic to me doesn't need to be locked in. Games like Sonic and the Black Knight are a great example of this. Merlina had killed Caliburn and was determined to make her world eternal. Despite this, Sonic is never really angry at Merlina or her actions. But at the same time, he's not gonna allow her to go through with her plans. Sonic consistently fights the same way he always does. He doesn't need some human to tell him he never changed who he was in his heart. He's never, "Oh, I'm angry at you now. Prepare to be brutalized." What separates game and movie Sonic is how in control they are with their conflicts. It feels like Game Sonic, no matter how dire the situation is, always keeps his cool. He never truly loses himself in anger, which is what makes him compelling in my opinion. Even like in Sonic X, where he loses control and turns into Dark Sonic, it still feels very calculated, like he's fully in control with that rage. Movie Sonic very easily gets caught up in his emotions. If you like this incarnation of Sonic, be my guest. In your eyes, he's Sonic, but not in mine. Tails, I will say, is pretty nice. He kinda just tags along for the most part, but for the times he is integral to the story, he's pretty useful. He sets up the technology used to raid Gun's base, he actively saves Sonic from burning up in Earth's atmosphere, and to top it all off, he's cute. What can I say? And all the while, he's a lot less stale than his modern game counterpart. Knuckles is also good here. A bit too battle-driven for my liking, but I love how grounded he can be sometimes too. He's the one who assesses Sonic on his mental state after the incident with Shadow and Tom. Not much to say on Knuckles, but Eggman. Oh boy! A long time ago, I stated that the only human I tolerated in these movies was Eggman. And thanks to movie 3, I have now retracted that statement. Because man, I could only take so much zany Jim Carrey performance before it started to feel like I was watching those Subway Surfer videos trying to keep your attention. I already wasn't fond of Eggman in the first two movies. With the flossing and constant wacky voices, I had come to the realization that Jim Carrey really doesn't work for Eggman. His goofiness just ruins any tension the story builds up. Anytime things were supposed to get serious, I could always rely on Jim Carrey to make me feel indifferent about any of the characters. Having him in the movie felt like if you replaced Eggman in SA2 with Boom Eggman. It's totally unfitting, gradually irritating, and overall very intrusive. And I can say the exact same thing with Gerald. Turns out double your villains doesn't double your fun. It actually doubles the character assassination. How they utilize Gerald just feels so disrespectful to me. In SA2, Gerald's presence in the story brought a sense of horror and darkness. His audio recordings tell you how much grief and madness he went through, showing how the creation of Shadow came from his own loss and tragedy. Even though he had died in the games, his presence was still felt through such things like the Buyer Lizard. From the very first movie trailer, I knew nothing good could come from his inclusion in the film, especially if he was mainly played as a joke for the infants in the audience. Whatever. Let's talk about something a little more positive. Shadow! I think Shadow without a doubt carries this film. I really only cared about the times he was on screen. If there's one character win this movie can claim, it's him. Because a lot of scenes really show the scale of Shadow's sadness and tragic backstory. Like I said before, that opening scene put on display how good these movies can be if they were more faithful to the games and played towards their strengths. Like, I don't need Shadow to say things like "Revenge Guac." That just feels like flanderization of his character. Those game elements are always held back by a need to cater to these safe movie tropes and jokes. Speaking of, let's talk about the three humans, Maria, Tom, and Maddie. I believe the way they handled Maria was pretty good. Because she got more development and screen time here, we could finally see what kind of character she was. It's interesting that they added a more mischievous and playful side to her. I really like that. But I do wish they retained her more bubbly personality from the games. And for the case with Tom and Maddie, I think downsizing the human cast to mainly just them was a good call. But at the same time, it just brings to attention how easily game Sonic characters could carry that screen time. Although entertaining, Tom and Maddie's inclusion in this feels kinda shoved in. Any relevance they have in the plot could easily be written around or done differently to make Sonic and Friends' involvement more plentiful. But then again, Sonic's whole story does revolve around Tom, so that's where I feel the problem loops back around. Many fans were expecting this movie to adapt the story of Sonic Adventure 2, while others believed this wasn't the case at all, and unsurprisingly, the latter was correct. The story utilizes plenty of SA2 elements, but I feel they really were trying to tell a different story than that of the game it's quote-unquote based on. No Rouge, no Gun Truck, no actual Chow, no Amy yet, no Chaos Control, no Bio-Lizard. Oh wait, Bio-Lizard did technically show up in a weird fictional way, but see, that's the thing. The problem with making Sonic's world and the human world separate is that writers are forced to find ways to integrate faint hints of Sonic elements into this world. Oh, the human world doesn't have any Chow in it, let's make them cute mascot creatures and put them in a location named the Chow Garden. Oh, the Bio-Lizard is an antagonist in our film, let's put him in as a scary monster in a horror movie that Shadow and Maria were watching. Oh, we need to reference some obscure Sonic material? Let's put Iblis in the Knuckles show and have him talk about the Facebook Marketplace. They take these things that Sonic fans care about and basically reduce them to mangled, cute references or jokes. And that's the best compliment I can give them. Cute. They're cute and that's about it. To other people, I've always said that the Sonic movies were family-sized kids movies first and Sonic movies second. They're made to appeal to general audiences. That's why Sonic was the only one of the main trio to be made into a child, while the rest of the trio resembled more of their game counterparts, so that he could be more relatable to children. That's why Sonic says things like "Konichi what?" or someone should check Google Maps. Because they're, I guess, relevant to pop culture? For once, I wish these movies would believe in their universe, believe in their source material, and understand that these movies have a big impact on new Sonic fans. These movies do change how people will see Sonic forever. Movies are much farther reaching of a visual medium than games. Marcus from Cosmonaut Variety Hour talks about this through Batman, and how warped the public's perception of his character is, making them believe that Batman was always just a brooding, dark character who kills and is cold to others. Some think that the movies will stay in their lane, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. If the Sonic movies get enough attention, they may alter the way Sonic is viewed forever. We've already seen movie elements get integrated into the games, including things like giving Sonic electricity, or just the whole Movie Shadow DLC in general. Sometimes I like to compare Sonic as a franchise to Thomas the Tank Engine. After Thomas and the Magic Railroad, the way Thomas was perceived by general audiences totally changed, altering the trajectory of the franchise forever. I just hope this franchise doesn't lose its roots and finally finds out what made Sonic tick, what makes him so special, and what set him apart from other franchises. The whole thing with Sonic's inception was that he was more distinct than other video game mascots, so to see him try to play it safe in some areas on the big screen is so disappointing. But at the same time, this movie is also paving the way for video game movies to be more faithful. I'm not gonna ignore the fact how monumental it is that these movies embraced its source material in aspects I would have never thought back during the trilogy's beginnings. I'm just hoping things are more uphill than not. I'm not gonna claim to be optimistic, but I haven't lost hope either. I still enjoyed my time with this movie. That's why I called it funner at the start of this review. I'm not gonna pretend I didn't geek out and squeal with joy at all the Sonic stuff present, because I did. And that's what I want these movies to do. Be entertaining for general audiences, but still pay a lot of homage to the games, and show the world who Sonic really is. I walked out of that theater humming the tune of Live and Learn, while children were walking in wearing Sonic merch. I knew at that point that regardless, they were gonna have a blast.
A Sonic 3D blast?
Hey guys, it's me, John Draws, and I just wanted to say I hope you guys enjoyed this review and I hope you have a great new year. I know I was leaning more on the negative side with this review, but I hope I was able to give some new insight on different aspects of this film. I still had a really fun time with this movie, and I hope you do too. Either way, you should still go watch it because that Sonic sweep ain't gonna stop until that line has been punted into oblivion. But for the new year, I want to make more content for you guys in 2025. I don't know if I can promise anything yet, but I'm definitely gonna try my best. As always, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Well, that's all I have for today, so I'll see you guys next adventure!